everyone, welcome back to part 4 of the Make Money Writing series. Today we are discussing white papers. So I have received a lot of questions about this one, therefore it is included in this series, and definitely a white paper is one of the crucial aspects of any business development process. So let's get into understanding what is a white paper and how you as a content writer can offer it as a service to your clients. So a white paper is any informational format, it is any informational paper, piece of content that is written to either inform people, to either educate people, or to build trust amongst the audience, or to generate leads for that particular business. Now, it is an informational document that a company publishes it on their website so that people can download it and they can read it. And obviously, as the name suggests, it requires a lot of research. There's a lot of in-depth work that goes into building and goes into creating a white paper. How can I say that? Because this year in January, I worked on a white paper with a client. It will be out for the public soon, and I will make sure that whenever that happens, I will link it in the description so that you guys can understand how I wrote a white paper for one of my clients. Now, so the importance of a white paper is, like I said, there are a few takeaways that you need to understand before you sit down or before you even think of writing a white paper for a client. So number one, your client will have a product or a service that they would want to promote in a very formal way. That is why they will be that is why they will be hiring you to write a white paper for them. Number two, now a white paper, it is not just about presenting some sort of information to it. It is also important that your white paper, it has a lot of data, facts, scientific studies, or evidences, or claims that can back up the thing that you're trying to say with your white paper. A white paper is necessarily written because a company, a business is trying to promote a solution of the problem that they are targeting with their business. This is why when I wrote a white paper, because it was my first time, and yes, I was afraid to do it, but once I got over it, now I know that it's as simple and as easy as any other piece of content. The only difference is the approach with which you write the white paper, which we will discuss ahead now. So white papers are usually written for B2B marketing. Now, what is B2B marketing? B2B marketing is when it is marketing happening between two businesses. B2B, business to business marketing. For example, the white paper that I wrote, it was for a non-profit organization that is writing the white paper for their government, that is writing the white paper to ask funding from their government. So again, it's a business to business approach. Why? Because a business is creating that white paper so that they can present the entire business model. They can present their entire mindset with which they're approaching their business, and they can ask the government to lend them the funding for their website, for the business that they're trying to build. Now, the main part is how I wrote that white paper. So I obviously, when I started, I was very afraid of it. Why? Because white papers, they are lengthy text of information. They require a lot of in-depth research, and most importantly, I was writing a white paper for the first time. So my approach was, it took me 2 weeks to get over the fact that I've closed this client and now I need to write a white paper for them. And second thing, when I started doing it, it was supposed to be chapter wise. So instead of, like after a lot of self-talk and after a lot of back and forth between me and my client, I decided that I will take it chapter wise. Why? Because the white paper that I was writing, it was supposed to be a 5 or 6 chapter paper. So yes, it was lengthy and it was going to be very difficult as well for me, because I have been used to writing blogs. Yes, I do write long form blogs, and I run a blog and all of those things, but a white paper is very different from everything that you do in a blog. A blog, even when it's a long form blog, or you say that you're writing a 3,000 or 5,000 word blog for the longest, it's still there on the website. A white paper, it's more like a passage to your audience, where you are writing it specifically to build trust and provide yourself and position your company or your business as this solution provider in the market. So it was very important for me to get that paper right, and definitely my client did help me a lot through the process. So my approach was very simple. What I did was I divided the whole content outline. First things first, let's take it step by step. So the very first thing that I did was I got on a call with my client and I asked them about, like, the whole gist of the white paper. We got on a call and I needed to understand their mentality behind writing the white paper. What is the ultimate goal that they are seeking with this white paper? Now, after I had all of that in my mind, the next thing was to create a title for this white paper. So again, I already have a video on how do you create titles. The title formation of any content piece is pretty much similar, so I will link that video here. You can go and watch that. So after the title was done, next thing was creating a content outline. So in terms of the white paper, a content outline is all about writing the chapters and explaining every single point of what will be there in that chapter, but doing it in a very brief manner. Again, similar to what we do in blogs, but this time instead of headings or subheadings, we call them chapters in a white paper. So I created an outline with 6 chapters, and when I shared it with my client, I got the feedback that 6 chapters would be a little too much considering the goal that we are aiming for. So we narrowed it down to 5 chapters, and that is when the real work began. So again, there were a lot of different ways in which I researched for this white paper, and definitely I went beyond the usual Google search. I went to YouTube, I watched the videos of the topic, even though there were very few of them. And then I started reading academic papers on the topic of the white paper, and I did a lot of other things as well. Again, I already have a video on content research. I will link it here. You can just watch that. All the 13 or 14 ways that are mentioned in that video, I followed each of them, going to Quora, seeking quotes from Twitter, talking to industry leader experts, and talking to the founders of the business that I was writing for. Again, very important thing, that when you are writing a white paper, yes, you need factual information, you need data, you need statistics, you need a lot of history and background of the topic. Yes, you need all of those things, and those are pretty much very easily available if you understand the content research. But along with all of these things, the most important part of writing a white paper is to get in the head of your client and understand why they are doing it, what is their ultimate aim or purpose behind the white paper. So the white paper that I was working on, I had 2-3 co-founders for that business. So I got on a call with 2 of them, and together we sat down, we discussed a lot of things. I prepared a list of questions for them based on the initial call I had with one of them, and then I started writing it. Now, what you can do as a content writer after you have started writing is, either you can take the approach chapter by chapter, or you can take it like completing the entire white paper and then submitting it. So like I said, the client that I was working with, it was a very important white paper because it was going out to the government of the country. So writing that white paper meant we had to get that right, because they literally have this just one chance in front of the government. So instead of completing the entire white paper and then submitting it and then getting the feedback, my client and I, we decided that we will take it chapter by chapter. So I used to write 1 chapter every week, like similarly following the same process how I write a blog. outlining the chapter, doing the research, writing the chapter, editing it, and then again editing it, and then I would send it to my client. So once I had the feedback for the first chapter, then I would move to the second chapter, then the third, fourth, and fifth. And this is how we got the white paper done. So as for you as a content writer, you can again follow the same approach if you and your client agrees to it, like giving you the feedback chapter wise. But not every client will agree to this. I know that because not everyone has that kind of time with them. So again, you can either take it chapter wise, or you can go for the entire feedback at one go. But that becomes very difficult. Why? Because like I said, white papers are lengthy text of information, and doing the entire thing, then getting the feedback, and then working on it all over again is not just only time consuming, but it's very heavy on the mind as well. So we took it chapter by chapter, and it's like this white paper project, it has been one of the most successful projects that I have done as a freelance writer till date. So now I'll take you to a more refined approach of how you can write a white paper. This was just a little background of that I have written one for my client, and I know what I'm talking about, just so that you guys are sure that I am not just taking up the information from somewhere and just throwing it at your face. No, I have written one, and I do understand the process behind it. So again, a white paper is written to share marketing strategies. It is written to share some complex analysis of an industry trend. For example, if you would go to a leading website, for example, an industry leading website, there are so many trends that are there that are coming and going. So white papers, what they can do is, white papers, they analyze a particular trend as well. There are different purposes for which your client can hire you to write a white paper. Your strength as a writer lies in two things when it comes to white paper: the research part and the writing part. Research is 80% of creating a white paper. Why? Because this is where you gather all the information, this is where you gather all the statistics, data, all the different analysis that you will do. So content research is literally the backbone of creating a white paper. And second is the writing part. So unlike blogs, so blogs have different tones, right? When we talk about blogs, we say that blogs should be written in the client's tone and in their brand voice. But when it comes to white paper, white papers are supposed to be formal pieces of content. They're supposed to be formal pieces where you are writing in a very strict, in a very straightforward way. You cannot go informal when you're writing a white paper. So, but again, now your question would be, how do we improve that? If how can we improve our writing skills, or how can we go in the more formal direction? So for that, I have an editor. It's called the Hemingway editor, and I take you to the entire tutorial of it in this video here. I'll link it here. Again, you can watch it and you can use it. By far the best self-editing tool out there. Definitely you should try it. So now there are again three types of white paper. One is called the backgrounder. It says this is where you are presenting your product or your service, and you are giving it the entire background and the briefing of what this product is, how it will solve the problem in the market, and why you should be the go-to solution provider for that particular problem. Second is the numbered list. So this is where just like you write blogs, 6 things to do something, similarly you write white paper, but again in a very formal way. And the third one is the problem solution. So this is where you pinpoint one specific problem and you use facts, data, statistics, other information, industry leaders' opinions and their claims, and you combine all of that and present your business or your service as a solution in that white paper. So everything that I shared with you about how I wrote a white paper, let's just go through those steps quickly one by one. So the very first step of writing a white paper is choosing your topic. Now we selected the topic after a lot of conversation between me and my client. You should do the same until and unless your clients asks you and they rely 100% on you to go for the entire white paper thing, involve your client into the process, because you will understand their mindset, you will understand the kind of perceptions they are coming from, and that will help you in creating the white paper for them. Second thing, the second step is conducting thorough research. Like I said, research is the backbone of a great good written white paper. You cannot go wrong with it, so make sure you are thorough with your research process. I spent 80% of my time researching about that topic, and only 20% went into writing. Why? Because writing is my thing. I know I can do it easily once I have all the information with me, but research was a very crucial part, because this was a completely new topic. Even though I was writing in my own industry, even though I was writing a white paper for the wellness industry, this was something new for me, because the content piece was new, the format was different, and most importantly, I was writing it to submit it to the government of a country, so it was very, very important for me. Now, again, if you want to get deeper understanding of content research, like I said in the beginning, I already have a video, you can check that out. You will understand why your content research is not limited to Google search anymore. It is way beyond than that, so go ahead and do that. Third, understand your audience. So why this is important is, just like writing any content piece in the digital world, it is very important that you understand the people that you're writing for, you understand the people that you are aiming for. For example, in my case, I knew that the white paper is going to the government of a country, so I have to be very, very thorough and very, very formal with it. I cannot go loose on my language in the white paper, I cannot go informal in the way I'm writing the white paper. So it is very important for you to know your audience, especially when you're writing a white paper. Now, the fourth point, create your white paper's outline and format. So like I took it chapter wise chapter, and even then for the first chapter I created an outline, just like we do for blogs. I created an outline, I sent it to my client. Once he approved it, then I went on to write the white paper. Again, I already have a video on how to create your content outline, you can check that out on my channel here. And the next one is titles. Craft an attention grabbing title. Now, why is it important to craft those titles? Why? Because I always say this, the inside content of any content piece is the later concern. Title is important because the title is what will make people download or click or read your, or even open that open that content piece and read it. So it is very, very important to create titles that persuade your audience and your readers to open that document or to download that document and just read it. So it is very important that you give more time in creating titles for any content piece for that matter. Now, step 6, introduction. So even when we were going chapter wise, so there were chapter 1 to 5, but before that chapter there was an introduction chapter. It was like chapter 0, you could say. And in that introduction, the introduction is what will persuade your reader to read forward, because like I said, white papers are lengthy text of information, and if they are going to somebody who is going to read it, the introduction is very, very crucial for you. Why? Because your introduction is where you will give them a peek into the entire paper. You give them, just like for blogs, when you're creating the introduction, you are presenting the problem and you promise them that you will give them the solution by the end of the blog. Similarly, when you're writing a white paper, make it enticing enough for your reader to continue reading it. How do you do that? So if you're a thought leader in your field, then you have to present the introduction with your own opinions. You can just add some of your own claims or own perspective to it. But if you're not one, and if you're writing solely a white paper as a content writer, then it is important that you are very concise with your introduction. Don't go back and forth between the information. Stick to the point and be very straightforward in your introduction. Second, break up the content. So when you're breaking up the content, again, I did it according to the chapter, and even within the chapters there were headings, there were subheadings, so you have to format it accordingly. Now this is very subjective because some white papers I have seen, they are very lengthy with no breaking up the format and anything, but the one that I wrote for my client, we used a particular format, something that we created together. It was unique, it was something very customized for that particular white paper. So you can again get in touch with your client and understand how they would want their white paper to be formatted. Now the next step is back up your content with the data. Very important. Any white paper is incomplete without data, statistics, facts, scientific papers, or any other kind of information that you are sharing in your content. So it is very important that you back all of your claims with some kind of numbers and facts. Now ensure value in every paragraph. So every paragraph or every paper that you are, every chapter for that matter that you're writing in your white paper, it is important that they don't bore your readers, or they do not waste your readers time. So every single paragraph, every single content or heading or subheading or anything that you're trying to say with your white paper, it is very important that you add value to that white paper. You back up everything that you're trying to say, and you present your clients product or service as a solution. You lead them to the end of the white paper by promising them that by the end of the white paper they will have what you have promised them. And the final part is proofreading and editing. So when I was writing this white paper, my client was very kind enough to give me a very thorough and in-depth feedback. You don't really get those clients very easily, so I would say I'm fortunate in that matter. But yes, my client was very kind enough to give me very in-depth feedback, and we literally sat down together to edit the white paper on a Zoom call together. So if you get that kind of clients, good for you. But if you don't, then like I mentioned, use the Hemingway editor, and just along with all the self-editing, ask your client to give you that kind of feedback as well, because not just for that particular white paper, but it will also add value to the process of writing for your future projects as well. So yes, this was my story. This was how you write a white paper, and this was everything that these were the 10 steps that you should be taking care of when you are writing a white paper. Like I said, they are very different from blogs. They are not written like even a website copy or an email. White papers are meant to be formal content. So for technical writers it would be very easy, but if you're a non-technical writer like me, it will be a little difficult, because I found it difficult when I was writing one. But we are writers, we eventually find our way through it. The only thing that you need to understand when you are working on something new for a client is that don't be afraid of it. Don't think that you will not do good or great with it, because with the process you eventually learn if you are willing to do it. So that's it. That was everything that I wanted to share. I hope you learned something new about creating or writing a white paper. And again, I hope you're enjoying this series as well. If you are, then do not forget to comment your best learnings or the best thing that you would have learned in this series or in today's video. I will see you in the next video with a new writing service that you can offer as a content writer. Until then, keep writing, keep practicing. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.